So today we'll continue our lesson in Chapter 2, Section 1.2, Justinian and Theodora, pages 44 to 45. Go ahead, log into our Loda.usd website, and from there Clever, and from Clever Cengage Learning, and from Cengage Learning you should launch the World History book from National Geographic Learning, and Unit 1, Chapter 2, Section 1, Lesson 2. And that is Justinian and Theodora, pages 44 to 45. Now for the chapter's essential question, how did the Byzantine Empire carry on the culture and traditions of the old Roman Empire? That is the western side of the Roman Empire that was destroyed by the barbarians. The objective of this lesson is to identify the key characteristics and events of the reign of Justinian and Theodora. Now, to provide you with a little bit more background or information besides the information that you have in our book, Theodora, the empress of the Byzantine Empire, was the most powerful woman in the Byzantine history. Well, she was born into a poor family, and at one point in her life, she made a living as an actress and also as a wool spinner. Theodora's beauty and intelligence attracted Justinian, and they were married in 525. Theodora influenced many of the laws passed during Justinian's rule. So she worked to pass laws that enhanced the rights of women, an issue that was not taken up by many governments at that time. She also skillfully handled political affairs, such as meeting with foreign rulers, which previously were actions carried only by the emperor, or specifically a male leader, or a king or an emperor at that time. Now let's go to your book again. There's a popular saying that two heads are better than one. This was certainly true of Justinian's rule. Justinian became Byzantium's greatest emperor thanks in part to the support and intelligence of his wife Theodora. Now, the main idea behind this lesson is simply Justinian and Theodora ruled over the golden age of Byzantium. Golden age means it is the time of great prosperity generally, and peace and order in a state or an empire in this case. Now let's talk about Justinian. He was born in 482 AD to a peasant farmer. I think that sounds redundant, peasant and farmer. It was a humble beginning, but Justinian's uncle rose to become a great general and emperor. His uncle educated Justinian and gave him important jobs and appointed him as his successor during this time. It was a smart choice. Now, in many ways, Justinian proved to be a powerful and effective leader. So we learned that he expanded the empire's border. Within those borders, he made major improvements in the areas of government, construction, and law. He reformed the Byzantine government to improve efficiency and get rid of corruption. Justinian also started an ambitious construction program. He ordered the building of Hagia Sophia. These infrastructures in many ways represent the Byzantine Empire. We will cover more of this later, specifically in the next lesson. Justinian in many ways is a very religious person, or to say the least, he's very superstitious. He got involved with so many projects that involved the church, or specifically the Christian church or religion. Justinian's reform of the law was far more successful. He reorganized and standardized confusing Roman laws, and he organized it in a way that is clear and logical, and of course he called it the Justinian Code. This remarkable work has formed the basis of European law until our modern times. So if it influenced European laws, it definitely had influenced American laws or any modern day civilization or government around the world. So that's quite an accomplishment, to say the least. Now let's take a look at the 6th century mosaic of Justinian, and as you can see here in this work of art, in the center of course is Justinian and the religious leaders on his right, and the government official on his left. So it shows in this work of art that his type of leadership is a combination of religion and shrewd or wise or strategic leadership. Or we can say he's a very good politician, to say the least, because he knows to effectively govern the empire, you need the support of good government leaders or politicians, and at the same time, you need the support of the religious community. Now let's go back to Theodora. So if you want to be a successful leader, you need to surround yourself with wise advisors. Now, of all Justinian's advisor, the most influential was his wife, Theodora. I mentioned about her background, how she pulled her up into the ladder of success, eventually marrying Justinian. But you have to understand that her popularity is not because, or not just because of her husband. Her popularity in history is because of her own accomplishments. She was probably behind the laws passed to protect women and children and some Christian minority groups. Theodora secured her reputation as a formidable leader when an event happened in 532. Some of Justinian's opponents turned a riot between rival sports fans into a widespread rebellion against his policies. Because of this, Justinian prepared to flee the city. Theodora, however, refused to leave. Her courageous determination to stay the fight and fight the rebels inspired Justinian. So he came back to his senses and he ordered the army to crush the rebellion, which led to the deaths of 30,000 protesters. Order was restored along with the emperor's authority. Following these events, Justinian decided to rule more carefully in the future. Romans in the Byzantine Empire are passionate about two things: sports and politics. Their favorite sport, chariot racing. It is more than just an entertainment for them. The races were focus of life and politics in the city. The people were bitterly divided in their support to the two main chariots teams, the Blues and the Greens. Almost always, races were an emotional standoff between supporters who often became violent. So Justinian and Theodora both supported the Blues, however. If you will think about it, it's a lot like modern day civilizations. For sure, there's a lot of resemblance in our culture here in the United States. Now let's take a look at the review and assess questions. For the first one, reading checked. In what areas did Justinian make major improvements during his reign? What are his accomplishments during his reign? Number 2, identify main ideas and details. What evidence from the text shows that Justinian's law reforms were successful? And finally, for number 3, analyze visuals. What can you infer about Justinian's reign from the people portrayed in the Mosaic? So these are your 3 review and assess questions. The reading checked, identify main ideas and details, and analyze visuals. Now go to your book or pause and play this video so that you will get the right answers you need to have in order to answer those review and assess questions. At this point, you should know the drill. Go back to our Google Classroom and open the Review and Assess Chapter 2, Section 1 and 2, and go to slide number 2, which is the lesson for today, pages 44 to 45 of your book, and answer these questions.